One of the most important takeaways from Mulgrave was those little opportunities on the side that are outside of academics and the educational framework itself.
I spoke with Emme Lee, who graduated from Mulgrave School in 2016. We talked about how Mulgrave's innovation and commitment to supporting student learning helped Emme find the right post-secondary path.
Would you say that Mulgrave influenced your choice of school originally and area of study?
I think initially I knew I always wanted to be in Canada. I did know right from the beginning that I wanted to go somewhere other than UBC at first, because I did want to kind of have established that independence and kind of explore my options. Mm-hmm. At first, I knew I wanted to go into healthcare of some sort. I didn't really know what that would look like. And then the more and more as I got through the DP program, I took biology and chemistry, which kind of set me up for a broad range of options. And it was actually one of my teachers here, so it was my biology teacher, who was talking to me when I was applying to different universities in Canada. And originally I knew I wanted to do general science because it just provided a very broad foundation, and it kind of sets you up for all the prerequisites for whatever career you choose. But after doing all my IAs, my extended essay in sports science, I realized, or he realized, I guess, that kinesiology would be a really great pathway for me. And that's something I never really explored before or discussed with other people. And I think it's one faculty that's becoming more and more prominent, but for the most part, science kind of dominates that type of sector. So after speaking to him, I realized kinesiology would be the perfect pathway for me, because for me, I'm not really interested in like the microorganisms or like the cell biology part of biology. I'm more interested in the physiology and anatomy, which is exactly what KIN offers. So that's why I chose KIN, and then I chose to go to Western because I wanted to be in Ontario, and it just seemed like the best curriculum for me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And now that you're going into dentistry, was that something that you were passionate about at Mulgrave, or was that just something that you were interested in after finishing KIN?
For sure, yeah. Actually, I had no idea at all that I wanted to do dentistry. I think at the forefront, going out of high school, I was really into sports growing up. So physiotherapy was definitely something I was considering. I was also considering medicine just because I really love the human body, and that's essentially what it explores. I actually chose dentistry in third year, so pretty late, considering most people choose that pathway a little earlier. And what sparked that was I was working at a surgery clinic for 3 summers out of high school, and I was only working there because I wanted to get involved in healthcare. They have anesthesiologists there. I could see kind of the behind the scenes of running a clinic in a medical setting. But as I worked there throughout 3 different summers, I kind of saw a side of dentistry, which I don't think most people see, which is like the creative aspect of healthcare, and how the planning around patients is very related to like the artistic underpinnings of the practice. So that's essentially what drew me towards dentistry. And I had a lot of different shadowing experience with medical professionals and dental professionals. And then eventually I chose that career.
And if you were to draft up a resume listing all of your experiences, accomplishments, everything you were involved with at Mulgrave, what would that look like? Just so I get a sense of what you were involved with at school.
So in high school, I basically tried to get involved in everything and anything I could. So I guess first I'll start with service, kind of leadership commitments. With Mulgrave, since we're an IB school, we have something called CAS, which is Creativity Action Service. So it's mandatory that each student partakes in 1 or 2 activities in each of those letters. But I kind of went all out as much as I could. So for service, I got involved in the Service Action Council, which organizes different events that support different organizations, both locally and globally. So it's a great like leadership collaboration for the commitment. I was on Athletics Council. I was on our house leadership team. So essentially there's 4 different houses named after different people in our school. And when you enter the school, you get assigned to a house, which also has a corresponding color. And through those, we have little competitions and sports days throughout the year. So I helped organize those intramural days, those sports days for the house leadership team. I was on the student board. I was deputy head girl, so I took part in a lot of student governance and advocacy and student voice. I was on the emergency response team, which is like our first responders for our school. For right now, that's all I can think of for service. For creativity, I did piano outside of school, and I found ways to incorporate that into some of the volunteer work that I did at nursing homes, like playing piano in their atriums while they ate. And then for athletics, I was on our volleyball team, our basketball team, and then I also helped coach both volleyball and basketball for younger grade levels. I was on the cross country team, and yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. And so I'm curious, being so involved in the school, what do you think that did for you overall? Like, did it, what kind of habits did it create?
For sure. I think that's kind of one of the most important takeaways from Mulgrave was those little opportunities on the side that are outside of academics and the educational framework itself. I think in summary, it taught me a lot of skills. It taught me a lot about working with other people. It taught me it allowed me to build character in regards to certain attributes that would carry into other sectors of my life as I move forward. So just for example, for the Service Action Council, one of the big events that I helped lead in my grade 12 year was our Spirit Week, which is essentially a full week dedicated to fundraising for one specific cause. So we chose the BC Children's Hospital for Cancer Research. And I helped organize Balding for Dollars, which was our main event of the week, which was the hair cutting and shaving event. And we raised way beyond our fundraising goal. And that really taught me about not only how to lead in a way that was effective, but how to delegate, how to manage my own time and my own tasks, and really collaborate and communicate with other people, because there's so many people from cross grades that are involved. And I think having that opportunity in the leadership setting early on really prepared me for other opportunities in the future. So just as an example for that, at Western, I was on our Kinesiology Students Association, which is governed under our student council board. And we take place with a lot of advocacy in regards to student voice for our kinesiology students, but also getting kinesiology out there in the London community, getting the community involved in different events that we host. So all of those skills kind of translated into other leadership roles that I took on in the future. And I think those are so important and go way beyond the academic framework at the school.
And maybe a tough question. What would you say is your proudest memory from Mulgrave?
Proudest memory. It's kind of a different one. It's not related to our academic program at all, but it's actually our athletics. So as being on the basketball team, we're a very small school, so a lot of the time we are underestimated in sports, and sometimes, and in the recent years, that's something that we've been working on, is getting our name out there. And our basketball team, we had a great coach. I was with the same group of girls starting in grade 7 all the way up until grade 12. And when I was in grade 11, we went to provincials and we got second at provincials, which was a school record. Usually in past years, we hadn't even made it to provincials. And since then, we've been consistently making it provincials. We've developed a really, really rich athletics program where our alumni come back, they help coach when they can. We have older students coaching the younger students. And I think that sort of family within the athletic sector itself was really powerful. And I'm still really good friends with all my teammates now.
Nice. That's great. That's great. And thinking back to when did you start Mulgrave?
I started in kindergarten, very, very young.
Yeah. Right. So I was going to say thinking back to then, but I guess you wouldn't really remember. But do you know why you or your family probably chose Mulgrave in the first place?
So both of my parents, they immigrated when they were around 10 years old. And I think they wanted to provide, my sister went to Mulgrave as well, and she's 2 years older than me. They wanted to give us a really solid educational framework. I think at the time they did like the private system, and when IB developed, it's a very holistic program, different from other types of academic programs. It provides like a very broad view of education, and the framework is not just the subjects themselves, learning and memorizing material. It's more so about developing students and young children who are very aware, that are culturally diverse, that really embrace their surroundings, their environment, and they can make decisions in an ethical manner, in a social manner, and get involved in meaningful ways. And I think what they saw in Mulgrave was the amount of opportunity. It was at the time when I started a very small and developing school, and it had just kind of gotten on its feet, but I think they saw the potential in the different opportunities that it could bring to both of our lives.
I'm curious, if you had to pick one thing, what did you appreciate most about your time there?
I think for sure I would say either my classmates or the teachers. Mulgrave's such a one big family, essentially, because of the small class sizes and the small grade sizes. It really allows us to connect with our classmates. Like, I know the name of every single person that I graduated with. I at least had one conversation with every single person. And I think that's something that's very special to Mulgrave specifically, is the sense of belongingness, the sense of community. When you're walking through the halls, for example, just between recess, between classes, after school, just talking to everyone. It's a very inclusive environment. And I have such like fond and vivid memories of being with my peers in our little seminar room, studying between our IB exams. And there's a sense of support and encouragement within the community. The teachers really want you to succeed at achieving your personal goals, whatever they may be. And I think that's really special, because I think when I think of education, there's kind of three parts to that. It's the student themselves, the teachers, and then the curriculum. And I think Mulgrave really tries to support all three of those points every single day.
And on the topic of what makes Mulgrave special, I'm curious, what differentiates Mulgrave from other similar schools, either other schools in the area, private schools? What differentiates it from the rest?
I think what's different, well, first would be the International Baccalaureate program. Not that many schools in our area have the IB program fully implemented from kindergarten all the way until grade 12. So we have the PYP, the MYP, and the DP program. So that's something that's very specific to our school. And I think other than that, being a private school as well, what sets us apart from other private schools, aside from our curriculum, would be how we're constantly innovating, constantly trying to grow our community, to develop it in a way that enhances student learning. So in recent years, we just built the senior school when I was in grade 11 and 12. We also just recently built an East Wing that supports our art, our design technology, and then provided external smaller classrooms for smaller classroom teaching, which I think is really effective, and that we've learned over the years can be very effective, especially for classes like language. And then right now we're currently building an athletics and an art center. So more gyms, a fitness center, eventually a pool. So we're constantly pushing the envelope, and I think that's what really sets us apart, is we're not a stagnant school by any means. We're continuously trying to improve that student experience.
Right. That's great. That's important for sure. And I have a bit of a creative question next. If Mulgrave were to be personified, if you would imagine Mulgrave as a person, what are 3 words you would use to describe that personality?
Curious, for sure. I think the students in the school are full of curiosity. I think that's kind of another thing that just sets us apart from other schools, is we aren't very narrow-minded. We're very broad-minded. We try to teach the students to think kind of holistically and from another person's perspective. I think I would think of the word innovative. As mentioned, our school is constantly trying to be better, constantly trying to kind of foster an environment where we support our students and help them flourish in every way possible. And then I would think of the word dedicated. Our school is so dedicated to our students, our teachers, the parents, the community at large. I think what makes Mulgrave so close-knit is not only the students and teachers within the school, but also how parents and volunteers and the West Van community play such a large role in shaping kind of our everyday routine.
Yeah. And if you had to summarize, what would you say are Mulgrave's highest values in actual practice?
I think I would think of cultural diversity. We really pride ourselves in being a very open-minded school. We're always open to students from all walks of life. And when you walk through the hallways, you'll see how culturally diverse our student body is. I think thinking of the idea of constantly pursuing each person's personal best. We really like to focus on the idea that all of us have our own goals, and these goals may look very different from one another, but we're constantly supporting and encouraging each other and helping one another achieve those goals. And then I would also think of how we're very globally minded, how we teach students how to think critically about world issues, whether they're political, economical, environmental. We challenge ourselves to tackle these very complex issues. And I think that's something that we learn throughout our educational framework, but also through the co-curriculars that are offered at the school, teaching students to be a globally minded citizen when they leave doors of the school.
What is maybe one thing that would surprise a family about Mulgrave? Like, is there something that, you can do all the research and everything, you can go to the open house, but what is one thing that would surprise a family, on that first day of school, let's say?
I think what would surprise families the most would honestly be the sense of community and belongingness and the friendliness of everybody at the school. I think what helps us achieve that is because we are a very small school. Your teachers will get to know your children very well. I am still friends with so many of my teachers from literally kindergarten to grade 12. And I think that's so, so important. And I think it's almost surprising in some ways because some larger schools that aren't as community driven don't have that sense of connectivity within the school. But when you're a new student at school, you will get to know everyone so quickly. There's so many chances to bond and connect with your peers. And I think even the parents themselves will also be surprised by the sense of community within the parents of the school, within getting involved, whether that's volunteering or just going to the assemblies. There's so many different opportunities for both the child and the parent. I think that's really special.
I know you mentioned there's, it's a very diverse group of students there, both in terms of background and in terms of, each student's own goals. I'm curious if you do think there is maybe a typical student at Mulgrave. If not, what would you say is that every student has in common there?
I think in common is, I guess because of the rigor of the IB program, especially when you get into the later years, into the DP, everybody is very, very driven. Everybody truly wants to achieve their best, whatever that best is. And whether you're aiming for a certain score or aiming to get into a certain university, I think every student here is very supportive of one another. It's not a competitive environment at all. I would say it's very supportive, very motivating to see your classmates trying to push their envelope and you're trying to push yours. So I would say very driven, very dedicated, and we learn certain skills, which I think translates to all aspects of life, like time management, organization, and that kind of contributes to how effective we are as learners.
Do you think your experience at Mulgrave shaped who you are today as a person, and how?
I think Mulgrave shaped me in ways beyond allowing me to prepare for tests effectively, beyond writing an essay quickly, beyond being able to problem solve a certain academic issues. I think Mulgrave allowed me to develop certain skills, certain attributes, and certain collaboration skills, which really have honestly translated to so many different aspects of my life. And it's allowed me to develop a work ethic that I think has translated so well in university, in my professional life, in my working life. And I think these certain attributes and character traits have really come through my further commitments at Western University and kind of externally.
Now, not every school is perfect. I'm curious if there is something about the school that you would change. If not, what is something from your own experience at the school that you would change?
I think what the difficulty is with Mulgrave is because we're a private school, we're in West Vancouver, we're an international baccalaureate. It seems like a very intense, rigorous school where, quote unquote, you have to be very academically driven, very, I guess, determined to get into the elite schools or whatever that image is. And I think sometimes that gets overshadowed by the dedication of our teachers, by the number of opportunities we have for students, the sense of community, how we're constantly supporting each other achieve our goals. And that doesn't necessarily mean going to an Ivy League school. That can mean getting a job that you want in the future, finding your pathway to university, whatever that personal goal is. I think sometimes our image of being an Ivy school overpowers the strengths of the rest of the school, which would be our athletics, our arts, our service, our leadership, our student voice, and our sense of community.
Right. And having said that, would you recommend Mulgrave to other families and students?
For sure. Without a doubt. Obviously, my parents were very, very supportive of the school, of the education that it provided, which is why I stayed here for 13 years. They definitely wouldn't have kept me here for that long. I think from my parents' perspective, especially, they realized the number of skills and attributes and a mindset that my sister and I developed at the school over the years. And they thought that was really special to Mulgrave specifically. So for sure, if you're questioning it at all, I would say go for it. I think from a student perspective, if you have the chance to go to Mulgrave, I would say take risks. I would say get involved, try new things. When you first join a sports team or first join a club or a service initiative, it can be really intimidating because other students may have been here longer than you, but you will become part of the family so quickly, and I promise you will enjoy it.
And is there someone you would suggest apply to Mulgrave or enroll in Mulgrave?
I think someone who is very driven, who's very committed to kind of finding themselves and finding their personal best within themselves. I think someone who likes to get involved, that wants to really achieve that holistic education where you get the chance to partake in so many different councils and clubs and projects. I think it takes a supportive family as well. I think it's really important to surround yourself at home and at school with people that are motivating you and helping you achieve those goals. So I think in general, if you have an open mindset, if you're willing to take risks and you're really willing to work hard and put in the work, those are all really important.
And so you mentioned taking risks, getting involved. I'm curious, what other advice do you have for a student who is enrolling for their first time and is, going to show up on day one? What advice would you have for that student?
My advice would be first to get to know your classmates. I know going into any new school that can be a little intimidating, but the people here at Mulgrave are very inclusive, very welcoming. We are very open-minded to people coming from all backgrounds and all parts of the world. I think my advice would also be to try to connect to your teachers. And I know this can be kind of intimidating at first, because when you think of a teacher, you often think of someone kind of in a higher level of authority as you. But I think at Mulgrave, what we really established that our teachers are honestly there as our friends. They're honestly there to help you in any way possible within academics or outside of academics. They truly are there to support you and help you develop those skills to help you succeed in their subject area, but also in other aspects of life. And I think you should really try to take advantage of kind of the environment that's provided. We're on beautiful, beautiful Cypress Mountain. We have probably and arguably the best view a school can have. So it's a great, great learning environment here, and I would take advantage of every moment and every opportunity you get.
What is the most important thing or lesson you've learned during your time at Mulgrave that has helped you since graduating?
I think for me, it would be that you can learn anything, at least one thing, from every single person you meet or every experience that you partake in. And I think I started realizing that as I got more and more involved with different opportunities within the school, and I learned that certain skills and certain character traits I was developing from certain experiences, whether it was having to solve any problems with a project, having to work in groups, all of those experiences and all of those people really contributed to how I developed as an individual and as a young adult. And I think that's really important to consider, is that every single person, no matter where they're coming from, whether it's your Uber driver, whether it's your teacher, your principal, you can learn anything and everything from the people around you, from your environment. So I would say embrace it as much as you can, and always be open to anybody and everything.